Well, we're going to get started, Brandon.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you. Welcome to 1 Million Cups Fayetteville. It's a pleasure. Today, we have a great speaker. We have Brandon Woolley with, tell me your business again, Brandon. So it's
Fire Within Nutrition and Fitness.
We have Fire Within Nutrition and Fitness. I knew that it was Fire Within, but I couldn't remember if it was nutrition and fitness or reverse. So we have a great speaker. So without further ado, we're going to give it over to Brandon. Brandon, it's all yours.
All righty. I'm going to set a timer for 6 minutes so I don't go over. Is that what you guys do, 6 minutes?
So Brandon, we usually have one speaker. Our audience just feels more comfortable with one guest. So you're a one-man show today. And so, you know, if you go over a little bit over 6 minutes, we're okay with that. We would never stop you mid-presentation. So it's all yours. Make it your own, okay?
Cool. All right. So I'll start with a little bit of background information, and then I'll go into what I've created, and then I have some questions for you guys. So I've created a health transformation course based on the 10 years I've spent in the health and nutrition field. And what I'm looking for is input on marketing strategies. What is the best audience to market to? I had developed a free tool that people can use to kind of gauge interest, to learn a little bit without having to put any skin in the game. I'd like some feedback on that. And then how do I get more engagement using that? And as well as some feedback on the price point. So these are some of the questions I have for you. And I started off losing 84 pounds. And I found out that a big part of that was nutrition. And what I found as I started working with clients is that there were items in their daily routines that they'd have 6, 7 different times that were causing issues. For instance, this is one of the kitchen makeovers we did where we found out a lady that was on seizure medication had aspartame in 7 items every single day. Aspartame can be converted to formaldehyde in our bodies or something very close to that and causes seizures. And when we removed those items, she did a lot better, just as an example. And she hasn't had a seizure in 6 years now. I come from a family of a lot of health conditions. I lost my dad last year to heart disease. My mom's had a few heart attacks. Both my brothers have health issues, and all 4 of my family members have been diagnosed bipolar, institutionalized, and medicated for it. I'm the only one who hasn't, and that's because of the habit changes I chose to make once I decided to make a change. So I've kept those 84 pounds off for almost 10 years now. I was a teacher. I left teaching to pursue health, fitness, and nutrition because I became far more passionate about it, and I thought there was a great need for it. I spent 5 of those years working for Lifetime Fitness as head of the nutrition department and lab work division. So what was really cool there is I got to see blood work results after habit changes, and I can see what was working and what wasn't working. I'm very interested in how hormones affect people. So when I make nutrition suggestions and exercise suggestions, we take in the whole hormonal aspect of what's going on. I also work with a functional doctor to run blood work for my clients that desire that. Now, I am a firm believer in the science field called epigenetics, which means above genetics. And what they found out is there's a protein coating that surrounds your genes that interacts with its environment. So for instance, if you have a dormant gene for Alzheimer's, dementia, diabetes, whatever it is, it doesn't have to turn on, but it will if your environment turns that gene on. So let's look at Alzheimer's, for instance. Some of the things that create that gene to turn on would be an influx of sugar, creating an amyloid beta plaque buildup in the brain, on top of lacking sleep. Because when we're in deep sleep, we actually have a system in our brains called the glymphatic system that gets rid of that plaque. But if your sleep is disrupted, you're not getting rid of most of that plaque. So that would propitiate Alzheimer's. And then also, taking a look at the types of fats and things in the diet and how that can interfere with myelin sheath coating. So, and that can even lead towards Parkinson's and things like that. So if you're getting the right amount of sleep, you're not having this influx of crazy amounts of sugar, your body probably won't turn that gene on. But that protein coating reads the environment it's in and decides whether or not it turns on. So carrying a gene does not mean that it's going to turn on. And that's where habit change in your environment makes such a big difference. Something else that's important to know is every 7 years, we replace just about every cell in our body. So people with chronic diseases typically can make a change. That's not always in the cards, but sometimes it is, such as arthritis and things like that. So taking that experience, I put it into my course and I tried to replicate what would 3 months of nutrition coaching with me look like if it was digitized. When people go to the website, one of the things we're trying to drive traffic to is that block on the right, that health transformation tool. And what that will take them through is a 56 question quiz. And there's 7 categories of health that it's asking true or false questions about. Once you go through that, you'll get a score in each section. I don't believe an overhaul diet makes sense. I've worked with over 3,000 people. And out of 3,000 people, that has not worked sustainably for a single one. I think you should make small changes that are sustainable over time. And what this quiz helps us identify is what area of health needs the most attention. And these 56 questions are based on the thousands of blood work, research studies, and everything else I've done over the last 10 years to boil it down to what makes the biggest difference. So if you scored really, really poorly in movement and exercise, maybe your first step toward a health change, let's start with getting some walking in. If you scored really, really low in stress and sleep, then maybe we need to start with sleep hygiene. Because just like we talked about with the dementia and Alzheimer's, sleep has a huge impact on that, and every single one of your hormones is going to be driven by your stress and sleep cycles. For instance, one night of poor sleep would lead you as insulin resistant as a type 2 diabetic the next day if you were to do blood work, which is why the first question they always asked for fasted blood work is did you sleep well? If not, that's going to skew the results, and they need to notate that. So this can help identify where you need the most help. If people purchase the course, they'll get the other sections too. There's a full 6-week meal plan I'll go over. There's videos with probably 2 to 3 hours of lessons and information, because I don't think it's easy to make a change unless you understand the why behind it. So we're going to go into the science of those changes and why. So there's a little bit on epigenetics, like I talked about at the beginning. The no-go list lists the most problematic items. And I'm not dogmatic or a totalitarian. I don't think you should cut out these things forever or all the time. I suggest limiting them based on your hormonal response to them. And the course kind of takes you through that as well. We go into detail on not just sugar like cane sugar, but wheat grain and corn and how that's converted to sugar and how that could create some stuff. Stress and sleep, there's a whole section on that. That's the longest section. Microbiome health and how gut microbes are making a difference with what foods we prefer, our eating habits, our serotonin levels for anxiety and depression. We go through healthy fats and unhealthy fats and oils. And there's also a section on supplements. That section's free to people if they do not purchase it. So the free habit evaluation and the supplements, that's without purchase. Everything else would be with purchase. Let's see. There is a 6-week meal plan included. This is an example of week 1. Every single one of those you can click on. It's going to take you directly to a recipe. There's no blog about grandfather's farm in 1929 and the first time you had a potato. It just goes straight to the recipe. So you got the ingredients on one side, prep on the other. Makes it really, really simple. Also, I have a recipe page. People can search by food type. So if you type in chicken, every recipe with chicken in it is going to pop up. So it's also searchable. When you get into the course for the education part, you'll click on the different videos. I'll be in front of the camera. There'll be graphics, pop-ups, things like that, explaining the why behind things. A lot of things are based on this no-go list: wheat grain, corn, soy, dairy, alcohol, and sugar. are some of the primary hormonal disruptors. So there's a lot of education on these around the course. And then I give substitution lists for if you still want soy sauce, what can you do that's not going to mess with your thyroid and estrogen levels? So coconut aminos would be a better option. If you like cereal, there's actually good tasting grain-free cereals now. There didn't used to be. They used to be awful. But so I give substitutions for everything. There's an incredibly comprehensive shopping list. I got herbs, spices, condiments. I got every type of produce color-coded by nutrient. Fats and oils, the healthy ones, alternatives to dairy. And then I also have a strength training course. This will be bundled with coming out in May. But right now it's just the nutrition course. On the marketing side, I have a podcast. I've done 50-something episodes and they keep releasing every week. And I'm on 7 different platforms for that. I have a newsletter people can opt into, which I'm building. So they'll get the latest podcast, they'll get a recipe. And I do a video every week on either strength training or nutrition that gives people help. And that's kind of where I'm at. So once again, my asks are any feedback on what are marketing strategies that would work for this product? Is the free tool of interest? How do I best get engagement to that tool? What's the best audience to target? And I'm still trying to figure out a price point. I have sold about 30 of these at different price points. So people are buying, they like the course. It's still in beta testing. Right now, the full course would be sold for $120. It's usually on some sort of sale, like $109. It would cost probably $675 to meet with me one-on-one weekly for 3 months to get the same amount of information. But it's not as personalized since it's digital. So that's why I don't think it's fair to charge that. But that's about the value of the information. And there is a Facebook group page where people can interact and get help and ask questions for additional accountability. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys now.
Well, since you're talking about your social media, how often do you, I know you said you had the weekly video, but how often are you engaged in your social media?
So on the 7 platforms, we're engaging about 1 to 2 times a day. And we just started that about 7 weeks ago.
Okay, and when you say 1 to 2 times a day, about what kinds of things are you posting?
Let me go back to a slide that had some of that. Let's see. These are examples of some of them. So we'll take audio snippets from the podcasts. We release a different recipe each week. The videos. We know that a big hashtag in social media right now is fitness motivation. So we started releasing a inspirational health-related quote every day as well, just because that seems to be the largest hashtag. But I'm open to ideas.
So Brandon, you mentioned $120 the cost. So what would I get for $120?
So that's the entire course. That's the 6-week meal plan. That's the 3-hour. That's what my whole presentation was, all elements of what's included in that.
Okay.
So the 6-week meal plan, the videos explaining the how, the why, the no-go list, the shopping list, and the explanations to help you figure out what the best way to go about making a change is.
So I really like the idea that there is actually science behind your process. So how do you differentiate yourself from someone like, in my area, there's a program called E2M Fitness. So what makes your business different from theirs? What sets you apart from them or your other competition?
I think sustainability. I'm not telling you to go keto and give up carbohydrates for 6 months, which is ultimately going to cause all kinds of hormonal issues for most people or screw up your gallbladder. So everything I do and have done for 10 years has been about sustainability. What can you do for the rest of your life? And really focusing in on the hormonal implications, not just in the short term, but in the long run. Because I could make somebody lose 30 pounds in a month, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not your trainer for that. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's safe. So we're going to take a sustainable approach, looking at 1 to 2 habits at a time and building on that in a way you can continue to do. And I'm not dogmatic. If you want to have pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving, have some pumpkin pie. Let's figure out a way to make this sustainable. If it's a plan that doesn't allow you to have cake on your birthday, it's not going to last. So how can you still enjoy the things that you have cultural and emotional ties to without it taking over your life? How do you balance that out based on your goals? But there are things I think people should stay away from most of the time, and that's that no-go list. And I explain hormonally what's going on in the body and why, so you can make those decisions.
I love it, Brandon. I really do. We've got a couple of questions in the chat for you.
Sure.
What platforms are you on, and how do you find them as far as social media goes?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. Everything should be my business name, Fire Within Nutrition and Fitness. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I have a MailChimp account that the newsletter goes through. I have a YouTube page. I've got TikTok, and I've got one other one. I can't remember what it was. There's a whole bunch going on right now. But just searching Fire Within Nutrition and Fitness podcasts. So I'm on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any major platform, FM Transistor. So pretty wide span. And the podcast, I have other business owners, other health coaches, dietitians, people with transformation stories, anything like that. My space isn't so competitive that I can't elevate somebody that's teaching things the right way. So I use the podcast as a platform for other people doing things the right way to reach a bigger audience, which is super fun. It was something I wasn't able to do at a corporate job. So that's probably my favorite thing I do right now.
And so people like free stuff. And so we've got a question about your free tool. Where can that be found?
Yeah, so that's at firewithinnf.com. I'll do a share screen and go there live.
Okay.
And also all the recipes are free too. They're just not laid out in a meal plan for you. So if you go to firewithinnf.com, NF as in nutrition and fitness. It's going to be slow because we're on Zoom here. Let me log out so you see what it looks like regularly, not the WordPress side. So it'll be the very first thing here in this top right corner, the free evaluation tool. You just create a login name, an email, and that'll give you access to it. There's also a 2-minute promo of the course that kind of gives you a little bit about it as well. But after that, you'll be able to get into that and go through those 56 true or false questions. And then also there's a lot of free stuff on their website. You can click the recipe tab. I just added a sipping truffle hot chocolate that's dairy free and uses coconut sugar. That's really good. But all these are free if you want to check out some of those. And actually, this is where my email capture is on the recipe page. Since a lot of our social media, there'll be a pop-up, but it'll only pop up once. It won't do it every time because we didn't want to harass people. And then all the podcasts are free. If you wanted to read show notes and read a little bit more, you could go on this page. Or if you just want to go to Spotify or wherever. So I've had dietitians, pelvic floor physical therapists, emotional eating coaches, all kinds of stuff. I had a Paralympic gold medalist on, just to give you as much information and inspiration as I can. There's solo episodes where I just dive deep into some of the stress and sleep stuff, wheat and grain. So all that's up there as well. And then when you go to the course page, that supplement section is also free. It might make me log in here since I'm not logged out, but that'll tell you what I think the most important ones are for those that are open to it. And that section is also free to people as well.
Hey, Brandon.
Yes, sir.
Excellent presentation. And I mean, it's timely too, because you've got a lot of interest in nutrition weight loss, physical fitness. My question is, do you have any partnerships over on the physical fitness side with gyms, local gyms or national gyms?
So I just started licensing the course to gyms. Redline Athletics, one of the franchise owners is going to be licensing the course for his entire facility.
Okay.
So I'm working with them. Outside of that, I'm hoping that might be a good avenue for me. Eventually, what I'd like to do is go to something like Blue Cross and Blue Shield and say, hey, if your company does, if you can get the health better, you're not having to pay out as much on claims. If this course would be valuable, would you get, something like that, I think is the ultimate goal from the licensing side, but also one-on-one people finding it and making a difference.
Some of your national gyms like Fit for Life have those partnerships, especially for senior citizens.
Like
Medicare. Yeah. And so I offer that to you as an avenue of approach. It looks like you're presenting to all age groups here. I don't know. Do you have a special age groups that you target, or is this everybody?
This is more geared towards adults. I do speaking engagements for child athletics programs and things like that. I have a pediatric workshop I used to offer as well, where we talk about pediatric nutrition. But this particular course is geared towards 18 and over. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be helpful for younger, but it is specific to the adult population.
Well, those are, what I call them the bookends, 0 to 18, and then, the 60 plus.
Yeah, well, this is definitely geared towards 60 plus, big time.
Yeah.
I've had at least 40 different clients in that age group overcome arthritis after 6 months of changes to where they didn't need their medication anymore for the first time in 20 years. So it could definitely help that population. And
do you also help those with diabetes and to remove the insulin or the pills or whatever medication they may be taking?
With medication changes, that has to be approved by their doctor. That's one of my limitations, is it's not within my scope to tell somebody to stop doing one of those. So I always encourage them to work with, and I do work with their doctors. Most of my clients share information. They've given their doctors permission to share with me, and we work together. I work a lot with their physical therapists on the strength side too, as well.
Okay, Brandon, thanks. That's questions I have. That's really great. I'm going to go to your website. I'm going to look at it. I'll probably even take the valuation.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, going along with that, one of our audience members wants to know, do you have plans that are designed for specific age groups?
We're going to do spotlight courses, probably more so on the strength training side, because we're filming the strength training course in May. But I will be doing strength training for senior citizens. That includes a lot of balance and hip strengthening exercises, things like that. And then we'll do a tennis one, we'll do a child sports one, and I'll probably create a sports nutrition course for student athletes as well. But we've also talked about doing one specific to we have to be careful because of my scope of practice. So I have to find out what are the limitations of me putting one specific to diabetes and things like that. So I just have to be careful on the legal side to make sure it's marketed in a way that makes people understand I'm not a doctor. But certainly I help. That's one of my biggest niches, and how I got started in nutrition was I had a client that his doctor said he had 3 months to get his A1C down or he was going to be put on metformin. And that's actually when I dove in and actually took certifications for nutrition, was specific to him. And then most of my career has stemmed from that decision.
So you seem to have a little bit of, your hands are a little bit of different pies. So who do you view as your actual competition?
There's Noom, there's, Whole30, which is a good program, but there's a couple things lacking. I don't think it has that sustainable aspect, and I don't think they market it as sustainable. I think it's meant to be like a 30-day cleanse. So certainly them. On the strength side, Jeff Cavalier with Athlete X, who's one of my mentors. There's V-Shred. I mean, there's plenty out there, but there's not so much that that there's not plenty of people I can help and who'd be willing to take my approach. My schedule stays full. I have 52 appointments a week right now, 11 or 12 clients a day. But from the online side, it's really, really tough. In fact, it's so saturated. I tried to hire a marketing company and they said, we'd love to take you on as a client, but this is so saturated, we don't believe we can get you a return in less than 4 months. And they said, we're going to give you, we don't normally do this, but we'll give you the option to cancel the contract. And I canceled the contract and I hired my producer and he does all my marketing now. And so far it's going pretty well. We're growing pretty quickly, but it's an extremely saturated market. Especially for pay-per-click and social media. And it's tough to cut through that noise because very little of what I see is anywhere close to sustainable. I think most of them can work in the short term, but my differentiator is what can you do for the rest of your life?
Okay. One of our audience members would also like to know, would like you to speak a little bit more about what you do with your podcast. What kinds of different people, but what do you cover in your podcast?
Yeah, so literally anything health, fitness, or nutrition related. The opening of the show even says that. It's welcome to the Fire Within, or welcome Fire Within community. This is the Fire Within Nutrition and Fitness podcast where we talk about all things health, fitness, and nutrition related. I'm your host, blah, blah, blah. And the last couple, we had emotional eating specialists on. We've had dietitians. We had somebody who started a pickleball podcast and magazine because that's a huge craze and that's a way for people to stay fit without as many injuries. I had people that lose extraordinary amounts of weight. I just had Vernon on who took his A1C from above 15.5 down to 5.9 in a year without medication. And we cover his story. Sometimes it's solo cast where we highlight an area of health that a lot of people struggle in. I've had the Olympians on. I did one on financial health because we had a financial advisor on because if your financial house isn't in order, that creates a lot of stress and cortisol, which is going to increase norepinephrine and adrenaline and raise insulin. And we think any part of health is important. So anything in that spectrum. We've had TED Talk givers come on.
So I have a question, Brandon, just to kind of piggyback on what Jesse had mentioned. You know, we live in such a pill-happy society. Has there been any resistance from the medical community, like from doctors, pharmaceuticals? And if so, how have you overcome those barriers?
So far, no. I have a pretty large network of physicians, doctors, chiropractors that I work with. I haven't had any pushback so far. In fact, I will be writing a book at some point, and I have a couple of physicians that have already offered to write something in the foreword. So far, no. I try and find at least 8 credible sources and look at the medical studies before I accept something as a nutrition fact. I've done an absurd amount of research before I present anything as information. So it should be pretty rock solid. That's not to say there might be somebody who has some pushback. I will say early on in my career, I was very anti-doctor in Western medicine, which was... But then I matured a little bit and realized that doesn't make sense. They've saved my life twice. And I think the blend of the two is extremely important. So I think we need Western medical doctors on our team, but we also need the functional integrative approach as well. And they should be talking to each other. For instance, I'm not going to take my mom for her hip replacement surgery to an Ayurvedic medicine practitioner, but I do want them to work with her to get her thyroid back in where it's supposed to without a synthetic drug. I think both are extremely valuable. And some of the issues with Western medicine is most people aren't willing to do the habit changes necessary to do things without medicine. So it's take the medicine or die. It's a two-way street. It takes two to tango. And I don't believe that Western practitioners are an enemy at all. I think they're badly needed and extremely valuable, but I think there also needs to be that integrative approach blended with that.
And so we also have a few questions in the chat. Candace would like to know, after the 6-week program, how much weight could someone expect to lose?
It's going to differ from person to person, but what I coach is 1 to 2 pounds a week for sustainability. So 8 to 12 pounds, if it's a sustainable approach, is what I like to see. Every client I've ever had to lose weight and keep it off, that's about what we like to see. Or if you're doing percent body fat, we want to see about 0.5% of body fat a week.
Brandon?
And that's the other thing that makes me different, is I'm not making these outrageous claims. Lose 100 pounds. In my promo video, the very first thing says, do you want to lose 30 pounds in 30 days? Well, then this is not the program for you. And
I think that's an excellent approach. This is Dr. Fair. Happy to have you on. Glad to be here. I wanted to get back to your original request in regards to marketing. I've heard the testimonials. I've actually been to your website and I've seen, some of the results, but what I'm not seeing a lot of is maybe numbers, the testimonials in regards to health. And, you are absolutely, spot on when you push that changing your diet changes your health, period. But I don't see a lot of that on your website. And perhaps it is in your social media, but if I journey over to your website, I'd love to see those testimonials stand out from a marketing perspective, and I've been a yo-yo dieter, I've been on all of the programs, and I will tell you that when one trend comes, I'll try it, and then it doesn't work, it doesn't fit, I drop off. That's just the way it goes. But whenever I realize that mom has heart problem, dad's diabetic, and all of these issues can trickle right down to me, there's genetics, then, it changed my thought process. So what I'm really pushing, here is that maybe perhaps focusing on those testimonials and actually having those individuals to stand out front, and say, hey, listen, this is what happened for me. I don't need a doctor to tell me, to get off my medication, but, changing my eating habits, this is what happened. And you can't challenge that because it's what happened. So I would really say, from a marketing stance, I'm focusing on those individuals who have, had significant change, would probably touch more or reach out to more individuals, the ones with the heart problems, the ones with, the hormone imbalance and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback on the testimonial page of my site. Now, from a marketing standpoint, we actually started out with testimonials, and Facebook denied all of those ads and wouldn't let me release them. They have a, whatever the rules are, you can't have any before and after testimonial type stuff in the fitness field. They won't approve the ads. But maybe on individual posts and other platforms, that could be something that I start doing more of. And certainly I can add some more number-based stuff on the testimonial site part of the page. So that's good feedback. Thank you.
And Brandon, I really, really like your story. And so when I look at your website, you're not just talking the talk, you've walked the walk, right? So your story is at the very bottom. Put it at the top so people, once you can drive them to the website, they can actually see that. Quite impressive. I'm definitely, I have to say, the older you get, it seems the more elusive sleep becomes, or that's what it seems like for me. It seems like I've been challenged with sleep lately. So, and definitely, I know that I need to change my diet. I like sugar. That's one of my worst habits. And so it is a habit. So I'm definitely going to check out your website. I really appreciate your presentation today. Fantastic. So we have a few other questions as well. Selena wants to know, she says she may have missed it, but how long have you been in business?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for 10 years, but on my own for 3. I left Lifetime to do a corporate wellness program with a healthcare device company that was global. I did that and realized I hated the corporate world. And then as soon as I started out on my own, the pandemic hit, and or shortly after, and every single gym shut down. And I said, I got to do something. So I started my own business, moved here. Right now, I see my clients either through Zoom or we rented a house with a garage, which I had contractors come in, drywall, paint, put up my logos, and got a business loan for about 15 grand of equipment. And I train everybody here or through Zoom. And it could be no equipment, some equipment. I could look at what they have and I put programs together specific for them if it's at their own house. The only client I travel to right now is Parkinson's, and she can't drive. So I don't usually drive out to people because I'm back to back to back, and that would mean losing hours with clients. And then nutrition I could do anywhere. It's just Zoom call, or if they want to come in person, they can.
Well, Brandon, I will tell you, I appreciate your way that you approach this. It is truly something about changing your lifestyle. It's not about crash diets, that kind of thing. And I can speak to that because I'm at the 112-pound loss level
wow.
now. And it doesn't happen overnight. You didn't put it on overnight. It's not going to come off overnight. It takes time. But when you make those changes, you sustain it, because I have been very fortunate not to go back up. So it is something that you take slowly. It's not one of those, like you see the ads, take a pill and overnight you lose 30 pounds. I wish it was that easy. It's not that easy. Yeah. But it is about making changes. What intrigued me, which is one of the things that I really could use, was that picture you showed early on with the counter of all the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That person was doing. I would love to see if you could, and you may already have done this and I missed it, that you could convert that somehow into a digital thing where, like, it's a checklist of what are these things that are in your pantry? Check, 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 check. And then there's a way that you say, okay, now this is what's in it. Because that's what I need. I need somebody to come in and tell me, you may think this is healthy, this is not. Or this would be a better choice. And that's what I think a lot of us miss. You could talk about, these are great recipes and all that. I don't love to cook, so that's a struggle. But if you could, what's in my pantry that I'm not aware of is a not good for you, that would be helpful. And I'm thinking digitally, you can like have a checklist of, tell me what's in your pantry. You check, 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 check. And then you kind of have some kind of analysis for the person, because, you know, you may be in your local area, but you may not be able to go to somebody who lives 400 miles away to tell them what's in their pantry.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah, so that's a service I have done over Zoom before. I actually worked with an app developer to create an app that would scan the ingredient list and red, yellow, or green light it. But I didn't have the $50,000 to develop the app. But that was early on something I really wanted to do. As technology gets better and cheaper, I'm hoping to offer that as part of the website. We will be developing an app as well when the strength training program is finished. But I love that idea. So maybe in the short term, I could create another segment of the course, or even as an a la carte item called Kitchen Makeover, where we talk about that. Now, as you get through the course, people should have a pretty good idea of what ingredients there should be and shouldn't be. There's also written going over like sucralose and aspartame and some of the chemical additives and red dyes. There is information about that, which is what I would be looking for on the labels is problematic, and the wrong types of oils. So by the end of the course, 95% of that should be understood. But if it was all in one place, specific to that, I think that's a great idea. And I'm going to talk with my producer about shooting that and adding it. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. And then I saw Velveeta's question on hydration. Yes, hydration is covered. And a couple of quick things on that. Even if you're just 1% dehydrated, that's going to raise blood pressure, which is also going to raise cholesterol. Also, every 16.9 ounces of water you drink at a time, you burn an additional 100 calories without lifting a finger. Hydration is going to create more space in your vertebrae because it's going to increase that cushioning around the discs, as well as increase synovial fluid, so it can help with joints. And then also for proper hydration, it needs to be paired with electrolytes like potassium, magnesium, salt. Otherwise, we can't actually draw that water into the cell. It goes to your bladder and you can't use it. So if you find yourself drinking tons and tons and you're always thirsty, there might also be an electrolyte imbalance as well. But all that should be covered in the course as well.
Brandon, I'd like to address a couple of things because you're talking about marketing. It seems to be your biggest interest. I guess the scariest thing I heard from this entire presentation is when you were talking to Jesse and you mentioned 18 or over. And you reminded me of one of my students that says, well, you're going to be out of business really quick when you start thinking like that. And I think Jesse had a really good point on that. And that is that you have a much older audience. And think about this. This is just from personal observance, but I just have a feeling that most people around 38 years of age all of a sudden find they're having a hard time winning the war on weight. And I would think that at 45 or over, that's going to be your target audience. This is just looking at all the things that you have. What you have here, Lori says something about she likes the science and it makes good sense, and it does. But I got to tell you, I've seen these things over and over again, particularly on Facebook with Noom and other ones that sit there and say, we've got something that's really special, a science that has never been discovered by anybody else. And I'm thinking, okay,
no,
this isn't going to work. And they go on, and of course, they never tell you what that science is. But you've got something that's very practical, and I think you have a very receptive audience of 45 or over that is tired of the fad diets, that is tired of these things are going to fix things in 30 days and stuff like that. And we're starting to actually go through the grocery stores and look at the nutrition levels of everything. We're trying to understand what all of that means on those labels. And if you're the guy that could tell us this is what we want. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you really need to rethink, get rid of this 18-year-old thing going on here, because their idea of dieting is eating one less pizza a week. And start thinking about people who are really serious about it, because they're going to start having health concerns with regard to this if they don't fix it. So this 45 and over, you have to understand who that is, particularly when you're putting together your programs. This thing like you're familiar with the product Eat This, Not That, and you've got something very. Yeah, well, we older people know it because it actually came out when we were younger, and we're very attuned to it. And you've got that built into your package. We love that kind of stuff. We love the idea of purging our pantry. We love, all of that, all of those things that you're talking about. We want to eat better. We just need somebody to tell us how to do it. We love the meal planners because we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see more of the exercising aspect of things falling into place with this. I love your program.
Yeah. The strength training one will come out in May, and that'll be bundled. That'll be an optional bundle. And to clarify one thing, when I said 18 or over, I meant that's who it's appropriate for. My avatar is in the 40s. So when we come up with marketing, that is who we're trying to reach. I just meant who can use it.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I tell my students, you got to concentrate on a primary target audience, because you're just going to be swept over by people who are attacking certain segments of the population. There's too much competition out there for that.
Yeah. So if I do try another Facebook pay-per-click, I guess we should change the demographics to that age group then, if we do.
Absolutely. I would think so. That's my opinion. Somebody else might have a different one. I really see that when it comes to nutrition, there are young people who get into the nutrition thing, but they do it on their own. They already know. It's kind of like computers. They know things. We have to be taught them step by step. Nutrition is another thing. We ate comfort food when we grew up. As 45 and over, we need to start thinking white bread's not a good thing. Maybe rice, maybe we should eat the brown rice. Now we're told not to eat the brown rice. And this kind of education is what we need.
Yeah. So the brown rice, white rice thing, they thought brown rice was better because it had more fiber, but on the husk that makes it brown, you have more of that lectin protein, which causes more fat to store in the liver and all kinds of other issues.
See, that's what I need to hear, but I needed to hear it 5 years ago, pal. So let's get this information out there and deal with the right audience. And I think you got a real product. I love it. I'm going to look into it further.
Yeah. Yeah, other countries figured out that the husk was bad, hundreds of years ago, but we tried to reinvent the wheel. So you don't want the brown rice. If you pressure cook it in something like an Instant Pot, it makes it even better. It'll break down some of that problematic protein, that lectin protein, and it won't be as harmful. So occasionally we do pressure cook white rice and include it in our cooking.
Well, I love your passion, but can I make one other suggestion too? Because you were talking about price points.
Yes, please.
If there's any way you can get that, I don't know what your cost factors are, but I do understand volume, and I understand volume on the internet's pretty good thing. If there's any way you can get that price point down below 100.
Sure. Right now it's on winter sale for $79, and we were fooling with it at that price point.
Keep it there. So I don't have to pay any more than that. All right.
Sure.
I would can.
Yeah. No, that's good feedback because we honestly had no idea. For strength training courses, I'm comfortable paying $100. But I'm also, we've been fooling with it. We've brought it way down. We've brought it way up just to see what happens. With pay-per-click, the price didn't matter at all. I didn't get any traction with pay-per-click because I think people need to interact with me through the free content for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I think that's probably where I'll do the best is with my mailing list of people that opt in because they like what they're hearing. So I don't know if you guys know the Jeff Walker launch strategy. I think that's kind of where we think we'll do the best because right now everything I've sold was direct content or direct contact. I've sold 30 courses that way, but I haven't sold a single one organically from people finding it online or clicking on a link. I think they have to learn from me for a while, see value, and then buy. But thanks for the feedback on the price. I'm comfortable keeping it below 100 for sure.
Hey, Brandon.
Yep.
Hey, I just want to tag a couple of comments, one with Cindy, one with Ken. And first I would say that, this entire presentation with all the comments has been spot on, truly spot on. I think this Shark Tank of audience here definitely wants to help you out. I think Cindy was spot on about something that could separate you from these other folks. And I think, when you said the kitchen makeover, that is exactly what people are looking for. What does a kitchen makeover look like?
Sure.
What is a pantry? Here's your current pantry, and then here's what it should be or how it can be. And I think that was a section, that would niche you separately. Second point I have, every night or every day, I see a commercial for Golo. Every day. They push some kind of insulin resistant pills. They've got this program that's in science. It's like Ken said, it's science, new techniques, new science approaches. And then you've got other companies that are pushing these protein shake drinks for senior citizens and older people in the 45 plus group. How would you attack any of that? Or not attack, but what separates you from all these folks?
Well, usually if I check the ingredient list on those shakes, there's typically corn syrup and corn syrup solids in it, which is the best way to get type 2 diabetes in the shake. As before my dad died, he had some severe atrophy after breaking his ankle. And my mom was giving him these shakes. I said, Mom, this is absolute nonsense. I think it was Ensure. And it had every single ingredient on my no-go list in it. First I would look at that and say, here's hormonally what these things could be doing to you. If you're trying to solve a health problem this way, maybe you'll fix the blood sugar thing, but here's where all the other things that are going to happen because of it. I'm not familiar with Golo. I actually don't even have a TV. I unplugged about 5 years ago because the news was raising my blood pressure. And I've been much happier since. So I don't know what commercials are out there and I'm not familiar with Golo. But
Brandon, they're pushing insulin resistance.
Wow.
So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's what they're really pushing is that folks are
with their products.
There's some now they're pushing pills,
Yeah.
but they were pushing insulin resistant. That's why people are not losing weight.
So instead of fixing your diet, keep on the same diet and take this pill. Is that the deal?
Something close to that. I just see the commercials.
Wow.
Big market. It's almost every day I see a Golo commercial somewhere.
Wow.
And they promote that.
That's incredible, but not in a good way. I don't know
Right,
if I
right.
needed that.
Thanks.
So
Yeah, so-
Brandon, we're almost out of time, but we've got a comment and we've got one other question. Laura wants to know, since you're on the topic of water,
Mhm.
what is your recommended brand?
Brand, I don't know, because I think reverse osmosis is good. You see that pH balance, you see the electrolyte added. Honestly, there's not a specific one I recommend. I do think electrolyte added to the water is a great idea, but it's like Smart Water, and there's another brand that always has the colorful picture that you see at the airport. But personally, I have a filter on my fridge and I use that. But I do recommend not drinking tap water, because the accumulation of the chlorine and all the other chemicals and what it does to kill your microbiome over time makes it not a great choice. Now, it is a first world problem. It's much better water than we'd find in a third world country from the tap. But if we're looking for optimal health, I do suggest not drinking from the tap if possible. I feel comfortable enough having a filter on my Samsung refrigerator and drinking out of that. You can buy fancy systems for your home that are even better, maybe like $500 to install. We're in a rental, so we're not making that investment right now. But I think electrolyte, reverse osmosis, the pH balanced water are all good choices.
So do you have any concerns of like water in the plastic bottles? Because I don't think plastics are very good for you. I mean,
yeah, I do prefer, if possible, not to drink from plastic, and all bottled water is going to come in that. But I do check for it to be BPA free, so at least there's no bisphenol A, which is what we think causes the cancer from plastics. And I do the same with all canned items. Every canned food, make sure it doesn't have that BPA liner that keeps the can from rusting, because that's leaching into the food as well. But so I don't drink a lot of bottled water, but if I'm at the airport or something like that, I do. That's one of the reasons I'm comfortable just drinking from the fridge with the filter, because it's not sitting in that water. I don't know in shipping how much heat was exposed, transferring the plastics into the water. But that is a good point. So I don't recommend people drink from plastic bottles all day long. I don't think that's a great idea.
So are you adding anything to your water from your Samsung refrigerator as far as an electrolyte, a lemon, anything?
No, I get plenty of sodium and potassium. I take magnesium every day as a chelated supplement. Most supplements are nonsense. It's pretty tough to find good ones. So I get plenty of magnesium, which is an electrolyte that way. I get plenty of potassium through the foods I choose, and I'm not afraid of sea salt. They've actually upped the salt recommendation to 3,400 milligrams as the minimum, or as the minimum without any concerns. It used to be 2,000. Now it's, if you're a heart patient, it's 2,000. That's the American Heart Association. But if you are so resistant to sodium and completely block it out, that can cause issues as well. So I think just having a healthy balance there. But 3,400 milligrams a day is now the recommended safe amount. And most of the salt studies were done on mice, giving them 200 times what they would ever find in nature. But yes, a lot of salt can raise your blood pressure and cause concerns, but not 3,400 milligrams a day. That should be okay. So a lot of my clients, when I first start working with them, they're so devoid in salt, and they're having headaches, and they're having aldosterone issues and all that, and it's just an electrolyte imbalance.
So fantastic presentation, Brandon. We really appreciate it. I'm going to your website when we leave, but I'm going to take the last question. What can this community do for you? How can we help you?
The biggest help was just giving me some honest feedback, which you've already done. As you guys continue to think of things, my goal is not to be rich. My goal is to make an honest living, making a difference. So if the information is valuable, if you can, drive people to the podcast, the website, get on the mailing list, because early on I said I would rather 2,000 people buy it at $10 than sell it to 20 people for $1,000, and more people have access to the content. I think what drives most anybody when they get into a profession is, how can I make a difference? So just spreading the word, even if they never purchase something, if they get valuable information and they don't have to watch their dad die 30 years early like mine did, that would be a win. So just driving people to the content.
Well, please, before you leave us today, you take a look at some of the comments in the chat that we didn't get to.
Yeah.
And Athena, do you got anything that you'd like to tell us this week?
Nothing special. We just have the real class next week, and hoping that we can get a couple more students in so we can make it. And the real class is going to help anyone who is in a new startup to develop a mini business plan and be prepared to do business pitches to get funding. And the funding options would be available for new startups who are needing funding to get actually open, as well as those who are already open and needing to expand.
The Small Business Center did send out a list of upcoming webinars. We try to post those on our Facebook page. I haven't gotten there yet today to do that, but hopefully have them up by the end of today. So if you're looking for some of these free webinars from the Small Business Center, you can either contact them directly or check out our Facebook page. Lori.
Brandon, again, we really appreciate it. We didn't really get to talk a lot about your desire to enter the corporate arena. Heard a little bit about the app for the ingredient list. So we would love for you to come back in the future and let us know where things are at and how things are going. Again, really appreciate it. Fantastic presentation. You guys, I hope you have a great Wednesday. I hope you come back to join us next week. We have the Woobles that will be coming to talk a little bit about their startup. They made their debut on Channel 5. So really super interested to hear what they say. Again, you guys, thanks so much for coming, spending a little bit of time to help support small business. Brandon, appreciate it. You guys have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to set up a consult just to ask more questions, I can even take you through a full evaluation at no cost. Feel free to send me an email or a text.
All right, Brandon, we'll be in touch.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.